Episode 54, Ready Player One Review.
And if people start making fun of me, I'm going to pull out my bender. You know what?
That sounds really dirty.
That's not what I meant.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of 5 to 1. 5 to 1 is all about the countdown from our panel of experts on a different topic each week. Today, we are deviating from our typical format and instead we are giving a review of Ready Player One, not in our style of counting down from
5 to 1.
We've done this a few times now, usually for Star Wars movies. But as we discussed in last week's episode, if we really liked Ready Player One, we do a reaction show.
And we did.
So here it is. Let's introduce our panel of cinema experts before we get any further. I'm Chris, and I'm joined by my two movie star sons.
Cade Moore.
My 13-year-old.
And I am Jet Moore.
My 11-year-old. And we are
5 to 1.
A little background before we get into our review, just so our listeners have a frame of reference for where we're coming from. I read the Ready Player One book something like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't exactly remember when, but it was a while ago. And I instantly loved it. It became one of my favorite all-time books right away.
It is your favorite all-time book.
It probably is. And as far as I'm concerned, it's essential reading for any child of the 80s. It is chock full of 80s pop culture from start to finish. It's kind of a love letter to the 80s, written by author Ernest Cline. And I convinced Cade to read it 2 years ago. And as Jet pointed out to me recently, Cade actually scribbled on the back inside cover, favorite book ever. So I assume that means you liked it a lot too, Cade, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Is it your favorite book ever still?
Mm-hmm.
And he's also...
It's the last full book I think I've read.
Well, there you go. It's not a lot of competition. I mean, you've read all the Harry Potter books, and you've read a handful of good books, but yeah, it's this one is just, there's something special about it. Jet, you had not read it prior to the movie, right?
But I've started it.
So you started it now, but we'll have some perspective from both newly introduced fans like yourself, Jet, and those that are huge book fans like Cade and myself.
And I can't wait to enjoy the book, because I'm chapter 3 out of, 42,000, would you say?
No, there's not that many chapters, but I know what you mean, because you're listening to it, the audiobook. So
Audible.
It feels like it's going to go on forever. It's like a 15-hour, 16-hour audiobook or something like that.
My friend Brandon, that lives in this neighborhood, he started reading it yesterday. He was on page, 146 or something like that.
Yeah? How does he like it?
He loves it. That's why he's on page 146.
Nice. And your friend Dean has read it also, correct?
Yeah, a long time ago.
My friend and listener Dave has read it, and he really, really liked it too.
Has he seen the movie?
I don't think so. I think of my friends, the only one that has seen it is
Evan.
So
he saw it with us.
Yeah, he sure did. Also worth pointing out, we saw this movie twice. On Friday night of opening weekend, we saw the special 70mm release. And we loved it so much that you two boys convinced me the next day to buy more tickets for a late Saturday night showing. And we were lucky enough to be joined by listener and longtime friend Evan Worrell. And after some fun discussion and after the movie, which, by the way, Evan was also a big fan of, he really liked it too, we had this really fun moment that I would like to share with our listening audience.
Who's your favorite uncle?
You?
Yeah! Eat it, Casey!
Wait, whoa, it's a tie. I didn't know either of them was my uncle.
Well, I mean, bloodlines, they're not. They're my friends, but, we call everybody who's like...
Uncle Evan, Uncle Casey. Yeah, you guys are a tie.
Well, that's not
Isn't
what
Brian
you said.
Also my uncle?
He's my friend also. You really only have a couple of real uncles, like your Uncle Homer and your Uncle Patrick. That's it.
Well, all three of them are a tie.
Well, that's not what you said at the theater. In fact,
well, I didn't know Casey also called it uncle.
I tell you what, I'm going to replay it just for posterity.
Who's your favorite uncle?
You?
Yeah! Eat it, Casey.
Whoa, it's a tie. It's a tie.
Sure, whatever.
But who's more loyal is Casey to the podcast.
Well, Evan was late to come around as a listener, but he listens every week too, like Casey does. But Casey has been, and Nick have been listening from the very first week, and Darren listens all the time too, and Dave listens. All of them do. They're all loyal. So thank you guys. We also recorded on our way to the theater for our second showing, right? But it ended up being a pretty long recording. I wanted to play a clip of it at the beginning of this episode, but I'm going to save it for the end. We'll play it like all the way at the end after we say 5-1, so it's guaranteed you can do you. And Kate and Jet go, love you, love you, love you. After that, I will start the clip for what we recorded on the way to the theater. It's about 7 minutes long, and it's a really fun discussion. We were all excited to see it a second time, and we had some good talk. I just didn't want to play it now because I thought we'd probably cover some of the same stuff as we go through. So I left it out. But if you want to listen to it, it'll be at the end of this episode. Now since this is not a traditional 5-1, we are going to skip the Glenn Solomon Fun Fact of the Week. We are going to skip Jet's Pun of the Week, and we are going to skip feedback. And we don't even really have a list.
I had a pun.
When you want to share it?
No, we recorded it.
Yeah. Was that a pun or was that just a joke?
That was a pun.
Moving on.
Do you want to retell it?
No, not anymore.
Okay, well, it'll be at the end of this episode if you want to listen to Cade's Pun of the Week.
Okay.
All right. Now, I don't really have a list, so I thought I would just lead with some topics and have you guys chime in as we go along. And if you want to add anything anywhere, just go right ahead. The first thing I wanted to talk about was this movie is mostly animated with some live action mixed in. I don't know what the split is, maybe a 70-30 split or something like that. But which did you like more, the animated portion or the live action?
I think the animated.
How come?
More references to things.
So like more Easter eggs and cameos? Yeah. What about you, Jed?
Of course there were a lot more Easter eggs. I mean, there was like everyone. But I also liked it because I liked the action scenes way more. And it was like so realistic. Like you thought you were in it when you watched it.
Yeah, there was a lot. There was action in the non-animated part too, like when they were chasing down the van.
It was better in the animated though. It was like 10 times better in the animated.
At the beginning of the movie, I wanted more of the live action part of the non-animated because I just felt like we could have gotten to know more about Wade and where he fits in the world and what the world is like. But when we were in the Oasis, I did not want to leave it since most of the cool stuff happened there, like you guys are talking about. And a lot of these I'm going to compare to the book because that's my frame of reference. The book has a lot more upfront activity in the real world. It sets up how dystopian the society is, how dire things were, and we get to know Wade and his situation more. And it had a lot of setup on like what the Oasis is and what it can do. And the movie didn't have time for all of that. It was already a pretty long movie without all that stuff. But I did miss that part of the story just because I'm such a fan of the book. So I'm kind of with you guys. I think I definitely like the animated parts more, but I like the live action stuff too. Towards the end, all I wanted was the Oasis animated parts.
Yeah, because that was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, most of the important stuff in the story happens there that moves the story along. All right, so what about the Easter eggs / cameos? That Kate, you talked about that you got those while you were inside the Oasis. What were some of your favorites?
The Terminator one. Really nice.
So Terminator is when the Iron Giant character in the final battle dies and he falls down into that pit and there's like lava and he puts his thumb up as he's going down. So yeah, that one was a great one. What other ones did you like?
I think right before that, the Serenity.
Yeah, I had that one down as my favorite. We see Serenity from the movie and TV show Firefly twice. We saw it first on the way into the club that Parzival and Artemis had their kind of date on. Yep. It was in the line of vehicles that were, I guess, lining up for the club. And we see it again in the final battle when Dido enters the battle and he jumps out as that Voltron dude. And that was, I didn't even notice it the first time, but the second time I did for sure. I think you did, Kate, because you'd pointed it out.
Oh, yeah.
But we saw it the second time and I was like, whoa, that is so cool.
Is it just me? Or by far the best reference was the DeLorean? because it was in it for a lot of the movie. And when he first transformed into the DeLorean, I'm like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, so that's at the opening, the first challenge when they're racing. He throws out this little gadget from his pocket that like turns into a car, and as it's building, you're kind of like, ooh, this is going to be cool because it's showing it, and then it ends up being the DeLorean, and we looked at each other, we were like, yeah,
it was so awesome.
And
I can't believe I used to hate the Back to the Future.
I can't believe that
so
either.
weird.
It's awesome.
You see it again. He uses the DeLorean in the final battle scene when he's like driving to try to get to the base area.
Yeah, but there was so much references: Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Chucky, The Shining. Like there's so much.
So what?
Ninja Turtles.
Were there any other ones that really stuck out to you that were kind of like your favorite besides the DeLorean?
Iron Giant.
The Iron Giant. He was in it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many. After the first time we saw the movie on Friday, we looked at each other a lot of times during the movie when we'd see something. Oh, did you see that or this? And I got home and I actually Googled Ready Player One Easter eggs, and the first website that popped up was like top 138
I know.
Easter
The trailer.
eggs. And that was just from the trailer. So I can only imagine how many there were in the movie. And we saw a lot, and it's amazing how much attention that they paid to detail. Now, granted, there's a ton more in the books, but the book's a lot longer, and it can fit all that in there. And the other difference was the book references are like strictly 80s, and some of them are very, very hardcore
80s?
obscure 80s knowledge.
This one's more broad.
This one is more broad, and it doesn't just cover the 80s. Like the Iron Giant is from 1999, right? And Terminator 2 is like from 1990 or 91. So it expands at a broader range outside the 80s, and the topics are more, I guess, are less obscure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on. We touched briefly on the challenges or the keys that you have to earn inside the Oasis in order to unlock the Easter egg.
Oh, what's the best one?
That's what I was going to ask. First of all, what did you think of them? Did you think the challenges were cool
Yeah,
Yes.
I like the original challenges better.
in the book?
Why
Yeah.
can't we go backwards for once, Pedal to the metal.
Yeah, that part was cool. That's when he was in the Halliday Library and he's watching the memory, and he's walking away from the scene and thinking he didn't learn anything else until Halliday says, "Why can't we just go backwards? Pedal to the metal, man. Bill and Ted did it."
Oh, yeah. And then he's just like, whoa, go back for 10 seconds.
Yeah. So that was for the first key with the copper key, which is the race. I loved the race.
I loved it, too.
There-
I like how it had Kong in it.
Who?
Kong.
Oh, King Kong.
Not con.
Yeah,
Kong.
there's a G on that word. Also had the dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are so many Easter eggs in this scene. If you look at all of the drivers and the cars, there's probably
they had
like
the A-Team van.
there's probably like 100 in this scene alone. They're all over the place, and it's got some really cool action. This one is very different from the first challenge in the book, but I actually think this one was an improvement from what was in the book.
What was the first one in the book?
Well, I would like to say before I describe any of them, the book challenges were all much more complicated than the movie ones, and it would have
Yeah.
been very hard to translate them to the movie simply because you had to do multiple steps and it would be hard to describe if you're not reading it on a page. And second, some of them had such obscure 80s knowledge and references in them that the general audience would have been like, I don't know what they're talking about. The book had it take place on the Oasis planet where the schools are at, which we never even get to see because we don't get to learn about Wade's involvement in school in the movie. But Wade is stuck on this planet because he can't afford to travel to other planets in the Oasis. That's like it's like an obstacle for him. So it was lucky for him that the first key challenge was there. I don't remember how he found it. What I do remember, it had something to do with Dungeons and Dragons, and when he got there, Artemis was already inside there. She was actually the first one to find it, but he was the first one to defeat it. And at the end of it, you had to win the video game Joust against this like really tough opponent. Wizard or dragon or something. I can't remember, but he was the first one to get it, and it was cool. It was really cool because it took a long time for him to get there. Whereas in the movie, they're pretty much like plopped down into the race
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
Anyone can just go into the race.
But overall, I liked the race better. I thought it was a really cool visual. It worked really well in the movie. The fact that he had to like research it a little bit to figure out to go backwards was cool. It wasn't as complicated, but I still thought it was rewarding in the movie. What did you guys think?
It was really rewarding. They gave him the key. I got him first place.
I meant rewarding for the audience, like as in I'm invested in this movie. I want there to be some suspense, and it was a rewarding payoff.
Yeah.
Although I really do love the second challenge with The Shining.
Well, let's hold that off for 1 second, because one more thing I wanted to talk about the race. What did you guys think about the part where he actually drove through it backwards and you got to see kind of everything unfolding?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really, because you saw those like barricades coming up through the ground, and then
It was like the coding of the
right. I thought it was a
yeah.
cool visual how you got to see what was going on in the race
and
above him.
Kong.
Yeah,
He roared at you. He
Yeah.
puts, he roars at you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he roars at you, then he just stops and stares.
right.
And
Yeah.
then I like the scene where Artemis saw him, and then she figured out. And then Parzival told H, and he told him not to tell anyone. And then he told Dado,
Daito and Sho.
And then
Yeah.
I can't say his name.
Daito.
Told Sho.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Daito is the long blade of a katana, and Shoto is a shorter blade.
Is that right? Is that what they're named after?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
You didn't know that?
It might have been in the book, but I don't remember. I didn't.
Daito is what you hold in your main hand.
But-
It's
Okay.
a big long sword. And Shoto is a smaller sword.
Ah, that's
you hold
pretty
in your
cool.
offhand.
I didn't know that. Very
Of
cool.
Of course, it's
Is
not
that-
Shoto, it's Sho.
Is Shoto actually a thing in real life?
That's what Cade's describing for us. So, yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. All right, so let's go on to the second key, which was the Jade key. As Jet brought up, it was The Shining. What did you think about this one?
This one was awesome.
That's so funny.
I loved when they all tried to do it and they all like died.
Oh, afterwards when IOI is trying to do it, and they're
Yeah.
all like getting killed by the crazy naked lady from the bathtub.
And
zombie.
the guy's like, now all they have to do is get through the Shining challenge, and all back. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, they're all falling down.
And the crew they all failed except for Artemis too.
Yeah, it was weird because when they got to that part, and she took the leap, everybody else got sucked out. It's just like only one person could do that part at a time, is what it looks like, because everybody else got sucked out of the Shining movie, and they were like outside, so they had to do it one at a time. I didn't really like the dancing zombie part that much, but
Yeah, that was weird.
everything else I thought was really cool, visually stunning. They totally like recreated the whole hotel that the movie takes place in, and the music was there, and like that music is kind of creepy. So if you've seen the movie and you hear that music, it kind of like I almost felt like I was watching The Shining
And
for a
the
minute
house
there.
doesn't look like a scary house when you first get in
It's a hotel.
a hotel.
Yeah.
Didn't it look exactly like the movie too?
Yeah, it was exactly like the movie. It was visually stunning. Now, in the book, there was a similar challenge. Now, again, it was much more complicated, but part of the challenge was Wade had to. There was like a game you could play within the Oasis where you have to like quote a movie. Like you're like, it's like you're a character in the movie, and you have to say the quotes, and if you say them correctly, you get a high score. Well, that game was part of the challenge, and he had to do this for the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick from the 80s, which I adore the movie War Games. It's one of my favorite movies. I love it, love it. So I was really looking forward to that being part of this challenge. And even when they were trying to figure out what movie that Halliday went to, when they were like, okay, we have to go and figure out what movie he took her to so we can finish this challenge. And they gave the clue. It was something like
The creator that hates his own creation.
the creator that hated his own creation. I still thought it was War Games at that point, because in the movie War Games, it's about this like supercomputer that this genius creates called Joshua. He names it after his son that passed away, and that supercomputer ends up starting a global thermonuclear war. And so I thought, well, that might fit still, because he had to shut down Joshua. But it wasn't. It was about Stephen King and The Shining. And even though I really liked the scene, I missed that War Games wasn't in it, because I don't know. I just was looking forward to it being there.
Yeah.
Anything else about The Shining? It was funny. Like it was really funny. And when the two girls bounced that ball and H went and talked to them right before the blood came rushing out, like that part was really cool.
Like he got scared of a lot of things, but he never watched scary movies, so he didn't know what to expect. So it was like, "Oh, girls, you know the way out."
Yeah, he was trying to get we keep saying he. H is actually a she. She kept trying to get out, and and the part when she walks in to that room 237, and there's the girl in the bath, and she gets out, and she's like, what's going on here? Am I being punked? And she goes, whatever, I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah. And then she starts turning all that.
Yeah, into the ugly old zombie.
Is it just me, or is H really good at dodging those knives, though?
Yeah, well, you saw H before in those battles in the opening scene, and she was kicking butt, like dodging things.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah.
She's like half mechanic. Like,
yeah, her midsection is like robotic.
Also, you have to notice that the whole crew is like really good at the game. Like in the opening scene when it had Jason, I was expecting to kill everyone, but Daito like took him out with ease, and so did Sho kill a lot of the people.
In the book, they go into this, but they
They never described in the movie how they became the high five.
Well, they kind of did. They were the 5 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, but like in the movie, they like clan up in real life, and they finally clan, and they talk about it, in the chat room. But like in the movie, they like mentioned it one time, and that's when they're about to do the final battle. And
you basically find out after they've won that they're the high five. That's what people are calling them. Yeah, but they were all solo gunters, egg hunters, right? They were all good because they all really researched and fought on their own for a long time. So yeah, they were all very good at the games. And one of the things about the book was that you had to be really not only knowledgeable about the 80s, but good at the video games, because that's how you earned things, and those were part of the challenges. And we'll get to more of that in a minute. But the third key, the crystal key, was finding the Easter egg in the game Adventure.
To be honest, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the other ones.
Yeah, they really skipped over a lot of it in the movie because they basically said, Sorrento already figured out the first part of the code. He knows what planet it's on, and he's trying to figure out which game you have to be. They skipped like the whole how to figure out where it was. The first two you had to they had to go to the museum, and they had to look at memories, and they had to try to solve a puzzle. And this one, it was like, he's already figured it out. We got to get there right away. And at that point, all you had to do was just play the adventure game on the Atari. But I include the battle sequence as part of this challenge because they had to get through the battle in order to get to the game. So when we're talking about the challenges, the Crystal Key, I include the big battle sequence as part of that challenge. What did you think of the battle?
It was awesome.
The last battle?
Yeah, the big battle sequence.
Yeah.
To get
I think
to the
that
Crystal
scene
Key.
has the most references and Easter eggs.
Yeah, that one and the race both have a lot.
That was probably my favorite fight scene out of the whole movie. Wait, was that the only one?
No, they had a big battle at that club that they went to on a date.
Oh no! The other one was way better.
Yeah.
I loved that. That battle was awesome. And I know in the movies you see the Iron Giant fight a little bit, but this, he was just killing everyone. It was awesome.
Wrecking it. It was cool when he because he was down for a little bit, and then he got up and jumped on the Mecha Godzilla and was he was beating him up for a little while there.
I thought Mecha Godzilla was just something made up in the movie, but that's actually a real thing.
Yeah, that's a real thing. There are lots of Godzilla movies.
There's 20. There's even one versus King Kong, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
There's out of all of them, I think there's one okay one.
A lot of people are really into those, including the author of Ready Player One,
Ernest Cline.
To me, I lost my train of thought.
I watched an anime on it. It was not good.
No,
well, never mind.
Well, the battle sequence was really cool, and then I did like the final challenge when he was kind of monologuing while he was playing, because it was being broadcast to everybody.
Yeah.
About how to all you had to do was to actually find that invisible dot just to play the game. I thought that was cool. The message behind it, and they also had a battle before he did that with Sorrento. I mean, him and Sorrento fought, and that was a cool fight.
Oh, yeah. I loved it because I think I knew before everyone he was going to do the Hadouken, because he went up and he kind of did those flying kicks from the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, pull a Hadouken,
Right.
And then he did it. I'm like, yes, I called it.
Yeah, that was cool. And then so Sorrento, he ignites that, whatever that bomb was. I can't remember what the
catalyst. Calculus?
No, I can't remember what it was called. But
I've read about it, and that kills everyone on the planet.
On the
Right,
surface.
even the person who ignites it or
Yeah.
initiates it. And
I wonder, could that shield protect it? What was it called? The orb of
Osulusk or
Osvos.
Oscavox. I can't remember
Yeah,
what it was called.
I love
Something
that
like that.
because Iraq was just like, how long will this hold up? About like 10 million years.
No, about 10 million years.
about
So I
10
think we're
million
good.
years.
We'll be
I'd say
fine.
we're good.
And then like right after it just stops because of Artemis.
Iraq was funny.
I
to
loved
me. He had a
Iraq.
lot of funny
Is
lines.
Is he in the book?
He is in the book, but he's a very different character in
Is
the
he
book.
serious?
He's like one of like the best players.
No, he's a total poser. He's like lame. He acts like he's one of the best, but he's really horrible. He's in the chat room, in H's chat room,
Oh.
but he's actually really lame. And in the movie, they made him out to be kind of a badass.
He was really cool. When I first saw him, I was like, man, he looks awesome.
He defeated the...
Steampunk Pirate King.
Yes, thank you. He hates steampunk, and he hates pirates, but not kings. It was something else.
I loved when his arm got cut off because he like, I thought he was dead, but he like covered it and it became a tentacle.
Yeah, that was funny.
Is it just me or I'm kind of weird with this, but I thought it was funny when Parzival, when the van was chasing them
Yeah.
and he was trying to stick the key in and he couldn't get it.
Right.
And all the people were just like, how hard is it?
Yeah.
I
Come
just
on.
thought it was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. And they were all rooting for him at that point,
Yeah.
which was cool. The other thing was after the bomb was ignited and they all died, Parzival came back because he had the extra life that he had earned from
That
winning
one
a
guy.
bet from the curator, who ended up being Og.
I'm
Ogden
confused.
Morrow.
Didn't Artemis take that key though?
No, she gave it back to him in
Oh.
the scene before they left. And it ended up being an extra life, which I didn't even, I don't know why I didn't even think about it. I didn't put it together yet when that part came up. Even though now that I've seen it, I remember in the book a very similar thing happens, but he does not get the extra life from winning a bet with the curator. He gets it from defeating Pac-Man in the arcade with a perfect game.
score.
With no mistakes, which is like impossible to do, basically. And it was part of a challenge, one of the challenges he had to do that, and he ended up earning this extra life.
Wow.
So I don't know which one I like more. I think I kind of like the Pac-Man one more, but they're both cool.
And I loved on the screen where I was just looking at it and it went PAR. I don't know how to spell the rest.
Zival.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, that part was cool. It was really cool. Now, one thing about the challenges that, and this is kind of a thing that happens with a lot of the movie, that I like the book a little bit better just because there's more in it, is that there's a lot more time between the challenges in the book. Like, they get the first key, and then a year passes before they get the second key.
And how long is it till the third?
I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of time in between. It allows things to develop more, like the relationships and things like that. And it makes the payoff for when they actually do figure out how to open one of the gates or get a key. It's more like gratifying because it's like they've had to research it for a long time and figure it out.
And also, in the movie where he gave, when James Halliday was about to die and he gave out the message to everyone, like the Easter eggs are not going to be laying under a rock.
Yeah.
I loved when it said, in the movie it was just like 5 years has passed.
Right.
In the book, it described a lot. Then it said 1 year passed. It described more, 2 years, and it went all the way up to 5.
Right.
And
So
all that took like 20 minutes.
you really feel the time
Yeah.
passing. Yeah. In the book, it's just like, it's already been going for 5 years, but somebody opened this gate and they hop right into the race.
Yeah.
So it's still cool, and I get why they had to do that for the movie, and I still liked it. But the book has more of an effect because of the time that lapses. All right, so what did you guys think about the soundtrack?
I liked
It
it.
was really good.
Like, it didn't stick out to me, but it was pretty good.
So we played Jump, a remix version of Jump by Van Halen for the intro of this song, which was prominently featured in the movie and in the trailer. In the trailer, they also had Tom Sawyer by Rush, which they did not put in the movie, and I wish they had because it's like
They put Faith.
one of my favorite songs of all time. They also had Take On Me in the trailer, which was not in the movie. But they did have Faith. They had Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which
They mentioned Take On Me.
they did mention Take On Me, you're right. They had We're Not Gonna Take It when he's holding the stereo above his head when the battle scene starts.
I loved that part.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good soundtrack. It could have been better. It wasn't like super strong with 80s stuff, but it was still good. What about the actors? How did you like the actors?
They were pretty good.
Anybody
Yeah.
stand out?
IROC.
Who did the best at acting was probably Artemis.
See, I thought for sure it was Sorrento. He really stood out to me as far as the performances go, the real life performances, not the animated part. And the animated part, I liked IROC the best, which incidentally is the bartender from Deadpool, if you know who that guy is.
I do. I remember him.
I was like, man, his voice is so familiar.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Sorrento is Krennic from Rogue One, and I thought he was really good.
Did you like him as a main bad guy? I did.
I did, and in fact, I liked him better in the movie than I did in the book because they added some detail to his backstory about him being an intern for Halliday, and that part I thought added some depth to his character. And like I said, I thought his performance was really, really good. So he was a good bad guy to me.
He's talking about like maybe you could add like levels for like how much they were willing to pay for it, like a gold and platinum and like bronze, but like maybe like the highest level could be like water because Oasis, and he goes hell of a latte.
Yeah.
I also love the part when he first met IROC, and he said how much money do you want? And he said 3 times my profit, and he said done. And then he's like, wait, I should have asked for 5.
Is 4 still on the table?
Yeah.
And of course his password is BO55 man 69 Boss man 69, which is just hilarious and very like poking fun at a noob, and which his character was. He was a noob. He didn't know anything about the pop culture. He wasn't good at anything inside the Oasis. He just wanted to win so he could take over what in his mind was the world's most important resource, the money.
I also like at the end when he kissed Samantha Wade, and then Sho's looking at them, and then like Daito pulls him away.
Yeah, that part was funny too. Very funny. I thought Wade did fine as an actor and Samantha, but Sorrento really stood out to me.
Yeah.
What did you think of the love story?
It's go.
Honestly, I know they had to do it in the short amount of time, but I felt it was a little rushed.
It was very rushed. It lacked setup. I totally agree. And that made it a little bit less
in the book,
fulfilling.
he wanted to meet her for a long time,
Yeah,
and he kept trying to talk to her all the time.
She was already a celebrity, which they kind of said in the book, like, "Oh, it's her. That's Artemis." But
in the movie, they said it.
That's what I mean. They said it in the movie, but in the book, it was like well established that she was like one of the most well-known Gunters out there because she was always taking down the IOI. She had a lot of success in the Oasis, even though nobody had found a key yet. And Parzival kind of like idolized her way before he had any contact with her. It wasn't like he saw her and was like, "Oh, that's that girl I think is awesome." No, they'd already established that before he ever ran into her. Plus, they had, like I said before, a year between the first and second keys. That gave them time to get to know each other. It gave that relationship time to breathe a little bit. And in the book, they did not meet until the very, very end.
I also liked when he won the $500 billion and he split it with his clan.
Yeah, that was cool. $500,000, $500 billion.
Yeah.
You'll inherit $500,000, $500 billion.
Yeah.
And IROC is awesome.
IROC is really funny. And I thought one character that I missed, who was in the book a lot more than he was in the movie, was Ogden Morrow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they go to his mansion?
They did.
And they had like all that gear. And
they fought the final battle in his mansion in the book. And he was also kind of a recurring character. In the movie, he was the curator. In the book, he was like the amazing Og or the powerful Og or something like that.
He's also Anorak.
No, he's not Anorak. Anorak is Halliday.
Yeah, but he controlled the Avatar.
No, he didn't. He controlled the curator at the museum. Anorak was Halliday's creation. But the powerful Og was a very cool character in the book that he was still cool in the movies, just much diminished. But I still liked him. All right, so how badly do you wish the Oasis existed in real life?
So bad. I've been saying this to you guys for the past 3 days. Which avatar would you be if you were in the Oasis? What username would you be?
Yeah, you asked me that today.
And I would be J-Max.
J-Max. I would be Jaquette Maxilis, which is a Tuckerization of your first and middle names, both of you combined.
And which skin? I would be a Pacific person sometimes. But, if I'm going to war and my skills are the same, I told you guys this too, John Bender.
From Breakfast Club?
Yes. It'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I'd have a mix of, gear I would wear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
same here. Like I would pick one skin specifically sometimes.
Yeah, I would have my own skin just like Parzival and Artemis do, but then I'd have some backup skins to throw on from time to time.
I'd have like
But boy,
gear from
I'd
different
rage.
movies and stuff like that, and I'd wear like a lot of Star Wars gear because I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So I have like Naga Sato's like crown thing.
So
That'd be
Star
cool.
Wars is one thing that was kind of missing from the movies. They referenced the Millennium Falcon at one point.
They had some X-Wings in the movie.
They did have some X-Wings that were hard to see because they were kind of in the background. And apparently Parzival's belt his
Han
holster
Solo's.
is like Han Solo's, which
There's
I didn't
something
notice.
on
You
the.
didn't notice then?
There's a belt buckle, like the main thing in the middle of your belt.
yeah, the buckle.
Yeah, it had a Thundercat symbol on it.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
Yeah. There were lots of Mortal Kombat references.
There was Goro,
Yeah, there's a
and there was an
ton.
alien that came out of Goro that
yeah.
ate his neck.
That part was really funny.
Yeah.
Katana, Sub-Zero.
Raiden.
Yeah. Cassie Cage.
Yeah, there was Cassie Cage for like a split second.
I saw the Mortal Kombat logo,
Sub-Zero.
the symbol.
I
on
saw
Daito.
that.
Yeah, it was in there a couple times. Oh.
I think his real name is Toshiba.
No, that's the brand of my computer here.
Toshiba. It's something,
Toyota.
It was like Toshiro or something like
yeah,
that.
it's something
Toyota.
like Toshiba.
Yeah, it would be really cool if it existed in real life. And to be honest, it's not that much of a leap from where we are right now because people get lost in like
VR.
games like MMOs like the Star Wars: The Old Republic or Warcraft, and they take on the persona of their character, and you can gear them up and kind of make them look how you want. But it's still on your computer screen. It's not like you're in the world.
It feels like
I
it,
wonder
though.
what things I could do on that because that's all technology, and I've been known with my friends to like get around the school system with technology.
Yeah.
What vehicle would you use, but like for flying?
For
wise?
flying,
Yeah, but not Star Wars. You can't pick.
Well, I
Star
would have
Uh-huh.
taken the
Slave
Firefly ship.
I would
Serenity.
have picked a broom from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
How about like a magic carpet from Aladdin?
Yeah, that would also be cool. But I would do a broom, even though it's very.
Oh, Falcor from the Neverending Story.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be cool, right?
What would you like-
I'd just say, "Suck it, bullies," to the ground.
Yeah.
they have like houses
No,
and
not
stuff,
again.
mansions like
Yeah.
in the game too. Like you have like your own,
Yeah. You like your
kinda,
own.
like, stronghold.
Yeah, your own place.
What would
to-
yours be like? Kind of designed like?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Hogwarts would be cool,
Oh, Hogwarts probably.
but if it couldn't be that big, I might pick like the house from Home Alone.
Oh yeah.
I'd pick a Shire house.
Oh yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be cool too. Very cool. Yeah, it's fun to think about the possibilities, and honestly, I don't think that the technology is all that far away. I really don't.
Do you think I'll have one in like 30 years?
Yeah, probably.
If we do, I'm gonna play it when I'm like 41.
Yeah, you'll be Sorrento basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about? I did have a couple other differences that we didn't. I mean, I wrote a bunch down. One of them was that in the book, Wade lives in the stacks like he does in the movie, but those stacks exist in Oklahoma. So when he actually moves to Columbus after he wins the first key and he gets endorsement deals within the Oasis, like advertises things, right? And he gets his own like upscale apartment where he can be safe and unknown. And once he's in there, he develops a fake identity. Do you remember this, Cade?
Oh,
He
yeah.
went by the name Bryce, and he infiltrated the IOI by basically turning himself into one of those.
Soldiers.
No, not the soldiers. Where Artemis gets taken to in the movie.
The big war room.
The loyalty centers is what they call them, like where
yeah.
you pay off your debt by working for IOI, basically. So he does it purposely, gets in there so he can infiltrate, and then he's the one that takes down the shield in the book. But I'm glad they had Artemis do that because she's like a really cool character that didn't have in the movie wouldn't have had very much to do really in the big picture if it wasn't her that took down that shield.
Yeah.
My order for the main characters, the high five.
Yeah.
First is Parzival, for
Okay.
sure.
Then
Obviously.
Artemis.
Yeah, then Artemis.
Then H.
No, then Daito, then H, then Cho.
But Sho is the coolest 11-year-old in the history of the world.
Yeah, I guess, but I
You
don't
see,
know.
he has like bunny legs.
I didn't see that. No.
Like his legs in the game, like he had like a reptile like skin,
Yeah.
and
He does have a reptile skin, kind of. His eyes are like reptile.
That's what Kate's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and he had like the ninja gear on and stuff
Right.
like that. But his legs were like bunny legs, like
Huh.
they
I
went
never
down
noticed.
and they went back and then forward like this, and they had
Like the
bunny
Energizer
feet.
bunny?
Yeah, like
Huh.
that.
Was he 11 in the book too?
No, he was not that young. He was young, but not a kid. He was like a
thought
teenager.
he was
No, he wasn't. He wasn't that young. And one other really big difference: him and Daito weren't brothers in the book. Everybody thought they were brothers, but they were actually just online friends and had never met in person. But they were very close within the Oasis.
And one died.
Daito died in the book. He was killed by the IOI.
Daito did?
He was thrown off a balcony by the IOI and made it to look like a suicide.
I heard that.
You read that.
I mean, yeah, I read
And
that.
Shoto, who wasn't his brother, he was actually, in the end of the book, he wasn't like battling to win the game. He was battling for revenge for IOI killing Daito.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet he was really mad.
Yeah, he was. He went all Super Goku.
I remember when Parzival, he got his own apartment, and he had like the security door,
Yeah.
and he would only open it to get package, and he got real lazy.
Right.
And he took those showers that made him hairless.
Yeah. And he had to buy like a fit unit that wouldn't let him log into the Oasis until he'd done his exercises to get himself back in shape.
Also, one of the things I liked better in the book for where I am right now is his hideout. They go way more into detail of where he found it and how the internet is crappy and how he puts up an antenna and all that.
So in the movie, what they did was in the very beginning, they had him climb down from his place in the stacks by going down those ropes and series of ladders and things he had to do to get all the way down to the ground. Then he ran to the stack of cars and he kind of climbed in between them. And then before you knew it, he was in his in some car where his rig was that he could play on. And I was paying attention to that because I remember in the books that he had a hideout, but I was wondering if somebody hadn't read the books, if they'd even noticed that like where he plays the game is a different place than where he lives. Because later in the movies and in the books, his place gets blown up by IOI, and his aunt and her boyfriend are killed because they think that Wade's in there when really he's not. He's logged into the Oasis from his little hideout. But I didn't know if it was that clear in the movies that, like you said, Jed, in the book, they really describe like his place. Like he carved his little corner of the dump yard out for him, junkyard, I should say, out for him. And they didn't really go into much detail in the movie on that.
I don't know about you, but I like being in really tight spaces.
I get a little claustrophobic sometimes, but if I'm by myself, it's fine. It's if there are a bunch of people in a small place, then I don't know if it's claustrophobic. I just want to get away from those other people.
I can sleep with a lot of people in the bed, but I'm really claustrophobic when people are walking around me.
Yeah.
Like, just back up a little bit.
All right, you guys have anything else you want to add about the movie, or should we go on to our listener choices?
Good movie.
Jet?
It's pretty good.
Listener choices. So we kept this part, this segment in, even though we skipped all the rest because it's a fun thing for me to do. And so we asked social media, what's your favorite thing about the 80s? And oh my gosh, people are very opinionated about the 80s. And it's kind of an open...
I saw one comment where like there were this guy named like so much stuff, and then you replied, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was Genevieve Kolash, not a guy, a girl. And she named... Well, there were lots of people that named a lot of stuff. Genevieve was kind of the first one I noticed. Let's just go through some of them here. What I'll do is, since it's kind of an open-ended question, we got a lot of open-ended responses. But I will name what some of the top ones were, and then I'll just name some that I thought were really cool. So the top choices were very generic categories. Like the number one choice was music.
Me.
Yeah.
Was music.
I put the music, then I put
the number two choice was cartoons, which is also kind of generic. But then outside of that, we got some more kind of specific answers, which are kind of fun. Like, jelly shoes, which is the kind of shoes that girls wore back then. And
wait, one thing. Jay, you said you're all about the music in the 80s. I feel like you're more like movies, 80s.
I'm both. I'm all 80s.
I might be more music 80s than you.
Nah.
I mean, I probably know more music from the 80s than you.
Probably.
Riding bikes, I thought was a cool one. That got several votes. Skating rinks, definitely a cool thing from the 80s. They still exist, but they're not the same. I like that a couple people said arcades, which I thought was really cool. Arcades still exist.
No one uses an arcade anymore.
Yeah, they're just not the same. I remember when I was a kid going to an arcade. First of all, it was like a huge event. I didn't get to go very often. But it's one of those things like you walk in there and you're in a different world because of the lights and the sounds, and you can get lost in there for hours. It's kind of like a casino for kids. And
But you can't make money.
You just lose money. couple people said everything. Oh, hypercolor shirts I thought was really cool. Do you guys know what those are?
Where the heat makes them change color.
Yes, and I had one, and those were amazing.
We used to get pencils like that.
Did you guys have a clap on, clap off?
I never had a clapper, no.
Those look so awesome. How does that even work?
TGIF was another. They got a couple votes. TGIF is thank goodness it's Friday, and it was 4 TV shows that would air on Friday nights that were like must-watch TV for kids in the 80s and probably early 90s. Full House was one of them. Family Matters, Step by Step.
There's no like real
Perfect Strangers.
There's no like real shows like Stranger Things in the 80s.
What?
Like
What?
real shows with actual story. Real TV shows like.
You mean like not sitcom? You mean like a drama?
Yeah.
Basically, there were, but yeah, the 80s were kind of ruled by sitcoms.
And I think the clapper, it works just by when it hears the noise, like two, like.
Yeah.
But like if you're watching a movie, like a war movie, and you're like the lights might be going off and off and on and off. So
I don't think it works like that. I had one guy say baseball cards, which I thought was really cool because, of course, that was a big deal for me in the 80s. He went into a lot more detail talking about, it was Aaron Minson, talking about the smell of fresh wax and cardboard and bubble gum when you opened up a pack of cards in the 80s. Along similar lines, Minwood said Big League Chew, which is that gum that I got.
I love Big League Chew.
Yeah, me too, man. It's so good. And I
also
think it
looks
was
like you're chewing tobacco in a game.
tobacco. I think it was, you always say tobacco, like you're not from America. Allison Marie Parkin, who commented a lot of things, and she always does. So thank you to Allison for always being a big participant in our listener choices. She said she could never figure out how to eat Big League Chew without swallowing some of it because they're like in little strips.
Do you ever?
I used to swallow some like on purpose.
I told her you just have to chew it really quickly so it turns into one gigantic, delicious gumball.
I love them, except they lose flavor. So
You mean like gum pack? It's not a ball.
I mean,
Anyway.
it turns into a gum, one solid piece of gum when you chew it.
Yeah, one solid piece of gum.
although I can't say that it loses flavor really, if it loses flavors really fast because that's how I feel about all gum.
It does lose flavor quickly compared to like some of the long lasting gums, but it's not as fast as like a lot of the bubble gum out there, like Super Bubble or Hubba
Bubba.
Hubba Bubba. It's better than those.
Bubba Bubba.
Like we got it recently when we went out one night. It was grape flavored, and mine lasted for a while.
I loved it.
Yeah, and it's really good for blowing bubbles too.
It was great, I think.
Genevieve Kolash also commented Blockbuster Video, which I thought was really cool because, man, I loved going to the video store when I was a kid. It was a big deal, and Blockbuster is gone, just like Toys R Us is about to be gone. Did you guys know about this?
I don't really
What?
care.
Toys R Us closing its doors, shutting down all stores.
Forever?
Do you know why, Jet?
Yeah, forever.
For like a gas thing?
Has nothing to do with gas, no.
What is it?
It's because they don't make enough money because Amazon
Wait, I was going to tell.
and eBay.
Trying to make him guess, like,
Oh,
because Amazon's like ruling the market.
Dude, but I have so much good things about going to Toys R Us and just thinking about getting on eBay because it's cheaper.
yep, that's what everybody does. And it's still fun to go visit the toy store. It was a big deal when I loved going to Toys R Us, but they are going away. Leslie Owings-Jones, who also gave us a lot of responses and always does. She's another very active participant. Said Bo Jackson, which I thought was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, very cool.
Is Babies R Us closing down too?
Probably. It's the same company.
Oh.
No one goes to Babies R Us.
People that
A
have
lot of
babies
people
do.
do.
I did when I had babies.
If you want to like find a bunch of pregnant women for some reason, go to Babies R Us.
Casey, you should go to Babies R Us. He'll get that. Any other ones that stood out here? I mean, there were so many good answers, and I have 186 votes here for different things.
I love Bo. How he broke that bat with his head.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy how strong.
And like
that
some
guy.
people just try to break it and they like can't. Like they try and then they're unsuccessful. He was literally not even trying. He just went
Yeah.
and broke it on his head.
Another good one was from Matt Lewinsky, and Matt always gives us top 5 lists when we put the question out there. He's one of our active Twitter followers, and he said Reading Rainbow, which I thought was really cool. Butterfly in the sky.
I don't like it though.
You don't like Reading Rainbow? I can fly twice as high. Just take a look. It's in a book. The Reading Rainbow. that song brings back so many memories, and that show, man, when we got to watch that in school, that was like the best day. I can't believe you don't like that show, Jet.
It's not good.
Maybe you haven't seen the old one.
I've seen an episode, and it's just like, how much people are in New York? And then he's like, how we figure it out? We search it on a website. And it's just not good.
It is amazing. I don't know what you are talking about.
Kids shows, like, for school, you know, that teach science are never good.
What about Bill Nye the Science Guy?
Our teacher hates him.
Mr. Wizard. Everybody hates Bill Nye, kind of. What about Mr. Wizard?
What's that?
Oh, man, that's a great science show.
You don't even... I asked you, you didn't even know what Magic School Bus was. Who are you?
I know what Magic School Bus is, kind of. I just never watched it.
It's not that bad, I mean.
We watched it every Fridays in elementary school.
Not anymore.
Gail Rudd-Kalani gave us a lot of votes, too, and she's been one of our longtime listeners and always has nice things to say about the show. I liked one of her picks was concert shirts, she said. Like, people wore concert shirts a lot, and also Aquanet, or I think she said Rave. Somebody else said Aquanet, but it's a brand of hairspray, because like in the 80s, girls all had really big hair, and they would spray their hair really big. We got a lot of girls that commented on like style choices, like the big hair was a common one, and there were lots of others like that had to do with the clothing and the makeup, and like Genevieve Kolash said a brush with a built-in hairspray pump, which was a thing in the 80s. A lot of people got really involved with this one, which was a lot of fun to go through all of those comments, and I really had fun. Sabrina Eller Manshart, who's one of my friends from high school, she had some really good ones that were kind of like activity related, like things you would do in the 80s, like playing outside, riding bikes, going to skating rinks, digging for change in the couch so she could go buy pixie sticks down at the gas station. A lot of people said playing outside until it got dark. That was like the rule. When the street lights came on, it was time to go home. Playing jump rope with double dutch, just a lot of like stuff that really is reminiscent of what it was like to be, a child in the 80s. Reading all of these really brought me back, so it was really cool. And one more thing, Jet, before you say what you were going to say. I
forgot.
Oh, okay, sorry. I categorized all of the choices into like whether it was toys or TV or music or movies or style having to do with the fashion or whatever. And those I have a really good top 5 ranking for if we want to do general categories. Movies did not make the top 5. It was actually number 6. Number 5 was toys. There were 21 choices that were having to do with toys. There were number 4 was music, 23 choices that had to do with music. 3 was TV, 27 choices that had to do with TV. Activities in the 80s, like some of the ones I listed that Sabrina listed, 28 choices for number 2. And number 1 was style, 32 choices that had to do with 80s style.
Nice, pretty nice.
Yeah.
I want to wear a jean jacket.
Well, we'll have to get you one then.
Everyone will make fun of me, I bet.
No, man, it'd be cool.
I'm going to wear it for one day. And if people start making fun of me, I'm going to pull out my bender. You know what?
That sounds really dirty.
That's not what I meant.
Pull out my bender.
Okay, I'm gonna dress like Bender.
Okay, he wears like 5 jackets.
Except I'm not gonna wear 5 jackets. I'm just gonna wear his jean jacket and the
gloves,
and the red thing, not the gloves.
The scarf?
Boots.
No, not the scarf.
That's the red thing, though, isn't it?
No, the red shirt.
Oh, I thought he wore like a long red scarf.
I'm not tying a red bandana around my boot. I'm just gonna wear shoes, jeans.
Are you gonna run through the halls and say, "I want to be an airport ranger"?
I wish.
Okay.
I will if I get into detention.
You guys can't talk in the halls.
So for our next episode, we had the idea for TV theme songs that we were gonna do before, and that's still on the table. But we also will be doing a collaboration with another podcast called Cinematically Correct that we will be guesting on their show on Sunday. We're recording with them and reviewing the movie Thor Ragnarok.
Which we haven't seen, but we will.
And then they are going to be guesting on our show, and we could do TV theme songs, or we could pick a movie to keep it movie themed, since that's what their show's about. We haven't quite decided yet. So look for that coming up in the next couple of weeks. And thank you to everybody for participating in our listener choices and for taking the time to listen. Give us a review on iTunes, please. We love those, and we love the voicemails. 469-607-521. That's 469-607-5861. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're 521 Podcast on all of those. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. At this point, I'm going to play the clip for our... Actually, I'm going to say I'm not going to do that yet. You guys have anything else to add?
No, thank you.
No.
Love you.
Love you.
At this point, we are going to play the clip from our drive to the theater for our second showing. It's a fun discussion, and I really wanted to include it at the front of our show, but also knew we'd probably end up talking about many of the same topics. It's about 7 minutes long, so have a listen if you'd like.
All right, we are on our way to see Ready Player One for our second round. Yeah, it's night Saturday night. We saw it Friday night. What did you think last night, Kate?
I loved it. It's a great movie. Probably the best movie of the year.
Yeah, it was really good. Were you a little bit scared because the trailer didn't exactly look like the book, which you and I both loved?
The trailer looked like more of like its own original story than the book did, but ended up being a lot like the book.
Yeah, it was a lot like the book, and they did change a lot too, like I was afraid they would, but I ended up really loving the movie too as its own thing separate from the book. Now, Jet, you have not read the book. What did you think of the movie?
I think the movie was absolutely amazing, like one of my favorite movies.
And you didn't really expect to like it, right?
Yeah, like I saw the trailer and I saw a couple things like, oh my gosh, it's the Iron Giant, but I thought nothing too much of it,
But then maybe how far into the movie were you when you realized, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool?
The very opening scene where it had Jason, Freddy Krueger, and everyone dying, and it showed all these games. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember you looked over and you're like, wow, this is really cool. And then they got to the race where we saw the DeLorean, and then you were hooked.
Yeah, like I saw the car and I said, I first saw the wheels. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an awesome car. And then I saw the DeLorean, and all three of us immediately looked at each other.
Yeah, we did. And we were all pretty much excited throughout the whole thing, I feel like. So when we're going to see it tonight for the second time, and we already know what it's about now, what kind of things are you going to be looking for? Are you going to try to pay attention to more of the cameos, things like that?
I'm going to look for hidden little things here and there. Try to find like all of the cameos, all of the characters, and everything, really, because they pretty much have everything ever in the movie.
True. What about you, Jet?
Yes, like I think I saw Chun-Li for a split second, but I was not really sure.
I saw Chun-Li. She was next to Tracer in the big battle.
I didn't see Chun-Li when I saw it, but last night. But I went to a website today and looked up 100 Easter eggs that somebody found from the trailer, and yeah, not even from the movie. And Chun-Li was one of them. She was standing right next to Blanca. It was at that club scene that they went to.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm mainly looking for cameos. Like I already know the story. Like some of those movies, like Terminator Genesis, I saw. I liked it, but I had no idea what was going on. But for Ready Player One, I knew exactly what was going on the whole time.
Yeah, we were all really engaged throughout the whole thing. And to me, what it felt like is like Steven Spielberg was kind of the master of adventure-type movies back in the 80s. Like, that's what he was really good at. And this movie, the purpose of it was to kind of capture that because the author, Ernie Klein, is obsessed with the 80s. And he wrote this almost as a tribute to not Steven Spielberg, but what Steven Spielberg contributed to his childhood and the other things that contributed to his childhood in the 80s. But since the 80s, Steven Spielberg's adventure movies haven't been on par with what they used to be. Now, he's had some other great movies that weren't like these type of movies, but the last couple fantasy adventure movies haven't been really great ones from Spielberg. But this one, I feel like he really nailed it. Like,
oh yeah, he got it perfect. And one more thing, I'm proud of Blanca for pulling a date with Chun-Li. I based on looks, Chun-Li's a lot better looking than Blanca, but I guess they must have felt some electricity between them.
That's a really good pun. Did you get that, Jet?
Yes, I completely got that. Also,
it's time for Cade's pun of the week.
Also, I liked. They also showed Mortal Kombat, and I felt like Mortal Kombat was really big in the movie.
There was quite a bit of Mortal Kombat in there, not just with the characters. We saw Goro and Katana, but also like they had the Mortal Kombat logo. Kate caught it. It was on something. On Dido, and
like a neckwear thing that you plug in.
Apparently, you also see the logo when what's his name, the main character Wade, gets the Easter egg, he finally gets it at the end of the movie. There's logos around there too somewhere, I heard, or I saw on the website. Also, I'm going to pay attention to this when the loading screen comes up with the title on it. The title, Ready Player One, like the logo that they created for the movie, it's kind of bluish, bright bluish color. If you look at it closely, there's an egg and the O in the word one.
Yeah.
And if you start with the R in ready, there's like a maze that you can go through to get to the Easter egg, which is kind of what the whole movie's about. Yeah.
That's like the coolest movie title ever.
Well, and I heard that Steven Spielberg said this was one of the 3 hardest movies he's ever made, and the source I went to didn't have reasons on why, but I'm thinking it's because they spent so much time meticulously burying tons of references in this movie, and cameos and Easter eggs and things like that, and there were a lot.
Yeah, like every character I knew was in that movie. Like every reference in every movie I really saw.
Yeah, I loved the Terminator one when Iron Giant was dying and he was falling down and put the thumbs up. That was really cool.
That was pretty awesome. It's pretty much every scene too. Every scene has a cameo from something.
There were a lot of scenes where we're looking at each other. Like I turn and look at you guys, like, did you see that? And you guys were like, yeah, did you see? You know, it was cool. A lot of stuff like that. So it made it really fun, and the story was just fun too.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Jet was asking me while we were getting ready for tonight if I liked the animated parts more or the real life ones. And I felt like in the beginning they started out in real life and then they jumped into the Oasis pretty quickly, and we spent a lot of time there. And I remember thinking at some point, like, I would like to see some more real life parts. But then when they spent a lot of time in real life, I was like, come on, let's get back to the Oasis.
I want to see more of the Oasis.
So what do you think? Did you like the parts on the Oasis more?
I think I did. Yeah, there's, more cameos and stuff in the Oasis, which was cool to see, because all the parts where we looked at each other like, oh my gosh, did you see that? It was all in the Oasis.
That's true. What about you, Jet?
I definitely like the Oasis because, like, I always wanted something like that in real life, and, like, it felt like it was real. And I usually, like, in movies, I would always think, like, old time is way better than future, to be honest. But after Ready Player One, the future has definitely stepped up.
Well, the future that includes tons of pop culture references to the old times.
Yeah.
I think there's more future than there is past.
You think so? In Ready Player One? Or just in general? And you're so dumb. True. Hopefully. Okay, well, let's wrap this one up. We're in the car right now. We're probably about 20 minutes away from the theater for our second showing. So we'll talk some more when we get there, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, peace.